at Seven Mountains Media author interview EA Aymar, the author of When She Left. EA, thank you for chatting with us today.
Thank you so much for having me. Looking forward to this.
The book is When She Left. Tell people what they should know about this book before they pick it up and start reading it.
When She Left is a story about a young couple on the run from criminals because the woman in the couple has left her boyfriend for another man, and her boyfriend happens to be the rising star in a crime family. And that he doesn't handle it well. The crime family hires a reluctant hitman / real estate agent to find them. You know, very much everyday life stuff.
Yeah, of course. Let me tell you what I like about this book. You first think, okay, it's about a young couple in love, on the run, and you think it's going to veer into one direction. But then you get into some serious mob type stuff, and it veers into another direction. And then it kind of mixes in the middle and kind of does both at the same time. So there was a lot going on in this book. How did you first figure out what you wanted to say with this book and what kind of mood you wanted to put across?
The mood is always tough because it changes. You know, every day you might approach it a little differently, and it's really hard to keep that consistency. But with the book, I knew what I wanted from the beginning. I've always written my other 3 books, all have woman as the main POVs. And for this one, I wanted to have the men tell the story. And I wanted to write about how men react when they've lost something important to them. And in this case, for each of those men, it was losing a woman. And, you know, I feel like in crime fiction, male characters don't always get a lot of depth emotionally. I was hoping that this was a sort of counter to that.
I have to confess, I didn't make that connection reading it, that yes, they're all kind of, after losing things that they have or trying to regain things in their relationships, they all kind of are going through the same thing, but just in very different ways.
Yeah, and it's funny, you know, that wasn't something I really realized until I was writing it. You know, I had a different idea for the book, and that was loosely it. You know, it was still told through men, their stories, but that was something I realized, and I was like, oh, I got to go in that direction. It's amazing what you don't realize about your own writing.
You kind of just catch yourself going in a direction that you never thought you would ever have to go.
Yeah, kind of. I'm always scared of going into a direction that's going to require a lot of research. So that's something I always avoid. But emotionally, yeah, I didn't expect I'm going to have to do digging here.
I would say my favorite character in the book was Lucky because he's an assassin and he's out to kill the main character. So he's a bad person. And almost from the beginning, he's never portrayed as a bad person, just a person in a bad situation. Tell me about creating that character.
You know, I really wanted to do, I love that kind of comic trope of a reluctant hitman, you know, a hitman who doesn't want to do the job or has another priority or falls in love, you know, and I was really worried that Lucky could come out like a joke. You know, he'd be more of a caricature than a solid character. And it was important to give him some empathy. So, and I couldn't figure out what that would be. You know, does he like sports or something? And then I thought it's his family. He's torn between these things. So make him just an honest, you know, to good, loving father and husband who's telling a lie and doesn't realize how burdened he is by this. But I think Lucky genuinely wants to be a good husband and a good father and just celebrate Christmas for 3 months.
I do not want to give away a big hook of the book, but there is also a part about mothers and sons, fathers and daughters. These all come together, and the characters don't really, except for one, don't really seem to be bad people, just people that are in really bad situations that they don't know how to get out of.
Yeah, and I'm really happy you said that because I don't want to write ultimately just bad or good characters. Sometimes I do, and it's intentional, and I'm like, this is just somebody irredeemable. But, you know, for the most part, I really want to feel like they have agency and they have a sense of righteousness about what they're doing that people can relate to, even if they disagree with it.
I'm always interested in how authors, because I've got the chance to talk to a few now, and it's fascinating to me how you pre-plan the story, because a lot goes on. There's a lot of different moving parts in this. There's a lot of different characters in this. And you mentioned that the story veered in a way you weren't sure of. How much planning goes before you start writing? Okay, I know I got to wind up here. I know I got to get back here. I know this character has to do this. How much of that goes into your writing?
I'm somebody who absolutely outlines everything. I start off with an outline. As I'm writing it, I'm putting the outline together. And even though I won't finish the outline, it gives me a sense of direction. So for me, that's really helpful. And I won't deviate that much from it. Like I said, I was going in a different direction originally, different direction emotionally with characters. The story didn't really depart much from what it is. It was just maybe the points of view that changed. So I kind of have a pretty good sense of that. Some writers I know are like, "Oh, I threw out 150 pages today," and I'm like, that makes me nervous. So I start getting fidgety. I'm like, I can't. I don't. That doesn't happen.
I got a couple more minutes with you. Thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us today. I always got to close with, do you know what's next? Do you know what you're working on?
I'm always working another book. I don't like to take breaks, but in the meantime, I have been doing other stuff. I'm writing reviews for the Washington Post. One came out this past Sunday. The next comes out in a couple of weeks. And I wrote a newsletter for crime fiction fans called Crime Fiction Works. And you can find that on my website at eaymar.com.
I absolutely enjoyed the book. I thought it was incredible. I thought the characters were great. And it really wasn't the kind of book that I thought it was going to be when I first picked it up. And I was pleasantly surprised. I thought it was awesome, man. So thank you so much for talking to us and for the book. It is When She Left. Tell people how to find you on social media and your website again.
Social media, I'm on Instagram and Facebook, although I don't check Facebook that much. But Instagram's the best place on social media to find me. And again, with my website, it's eaymar.com. And thanks so much for having me. This was great.